Welcome to Women Making News Live. I'm your host, Demmie Hicks, and it is a great privilege to be with Meeshu Agnihotri today. Meeshu, please join me.
Hi, Demmie.
You know, Meeshu, the first thing I notice is that we have a very long title with you there. Could you tell us a little bit about who you are and where you come to us from today?
Absolutely. Part of my title says that I'm a digital mental health researcher, and that would be sort of a very unofficial, but probably the truest title that I've got. I am a graduate researcher at University of California-Irvine. I do research in digital mental health and human-centered design. So that's kind of where my title comes from. I'd like to, it's a huge part of my identity. That's why I feel like it's the truest title that I've got right now.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating that you say it's a huge part of your identity. So let me just take a moment to say, well, go a little deeper on that. A huge part of your identity. What does that mean and why?
Yeah. So it's not the only title I've had over like the past couple of years, right? And so when I say it's a huge part of my current identity, let me sort of first give some context around what are the other titles that I've had. And so professionally, before I started as a graduate researcher at UCI, I was a UX designer and a product designer or a design consultant, all of these various roles in consulting and in startups. I was also at some point of time graduate student at Georgia Tech's program. And at some point of time, I was also an engineer in undergrad, right? But all of those identities or those titles, I felt like they didn't quite fit me, or I did not fit them, or something happened over there. And so going through that process of trying a specific role or a title, and sort of thinking about what are the aspects that I like about it, how does that align with what I want to do, what I'm passionate about, what are the things I value. And so I kept on like trying to tweak that a little bit, which got me to my current title of a digital mental health researchers, which is a title where as part of doing research in digital mental health space, I kind of do all of the activities and all of the roles that I had done before.
Thank you for sharing that. So what I heard in there is that so far in your life and in your career, you have been in a process of self-exploration, and you've used your various roles, the various, whether it was a student at, whether it was becoming an engineer, whether it was a graduate student at Georgia Tech, whether it was a UX designer, you've been exploring what you like. And that leads me to the first question is, when you and I were preparing for this interview, you talked a lot about passion. So now you're talking about identity. How does your passion fit in? And when did you first begin to understand your passion?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I would, one of the things I would clarify over here is, as individuals, we're all kind of our relationship with the word passion and what we find passionate. Like it really evolves. It's part of the self discovery process quite a bit. And so I sort of first realized I care very deeply about mental health. Um, and I wanted to sort of work in that space during the pandemic, which is not at all surprising. I feel like all of us started thinking more about it during the pandemic. Um, And so, really, what happened over there was growing up, I kind of grew up in a culture where mental health is pretty stigmatized context. And it's not something that we kind of like talk about all that much. And because we don't talk about it, really we don't engage with it in very productive ways. Um, and so back when I was a kid, I knew that I wanted to do something. I grew up around people. My dad's a scientist, and so when I was growing up, I was like, I wanted to do something where I could make or build something that makes an impact or that makes a difference. It improves people's life or improves people's well-being. Um, those were the thoughts of a 5-year-old or like a 6-year-old me. But really, since then to now, it's been a journey of figuring out with with the passion that I have, what are the skills that I need or that I need to cultivate in order to sort of make that a reality. Um, and so, starting from thinking that I sort of wanted to do something where I make something beneficial to people, I like really focused on that making aspect. And I was like, okay, engineers, they make things. So I'm going to go and be an engineer. Um, and then what I realized over there is while it allowed me to be fairly creative and build things, what I was missing was an aspect of it where I was working with people. Like I wanted to build something that someone would use and I could get that feedback from them. And it used to bring me a lot of joy when I made something and people like used it and gave me and told me like, hey, this is what we love about it. And that sort of human connection was really important
Yeah.
for me. Um,
And how old were you then? At what age were you then?
this was I think in my early 20s
Okay.
really. So I was in my undergrad and I was building all of these things. Um, and I felt like I didn't quite know why who I was building it for. Um, right, I was building, but I didn't know who I was doing this for. And while growing up, I always imagined I would do it for someone, like
Right.
whoever that. Um, um, and so I sort of realized that I wanted to do something where I was kind of making things more for an individual. And that's how I kind of came across the field of user experience or human centered design,
Mhm.
which is sort of pretty complementary to engineering. But what it emphasizes on is uh, while you're building and throughout the building process, you work with people whom you are building a technology or anything for,
Right.
um, and keep them in mind. Like involve them in the process throughout. So that sort of brought me to my next phase.
Well, let me
Um,
ask you a question. Let me ask you a question, Mishu,
yeah.
before we get to your next phase, and that is about UX design, because that's a very fascinating field. Is that, however, I would ask you as a former UX designer, is that a field that most people are familiar with and know how it touches their daily life?
Um, I I don't think a lot of people are aware of it, and it always surprises me when I meet people on the road and I tell them about what I do. They're like, "Oh, we really had no idea that that was a thing."
Right.
Um, but then I sort of explain them like everything. There are so many things that they interact with that that company has designers who are working over there in
Yeah.
order to improve their experience. So, if you've got a mobile app, and you're using any application, if you're talking to someone, if you are connecting with someone, if you are trying to order groceries, even without using even going beyond technology and mobile apps, if you like walk into certain stores, like if you walk into your bank and you're thinking about, okay, notice how the person who the banker has all of this information available and is able to connect with me. There's a designer who's working behind the scenes, very intentionally thinking about how do we have a seamless experience for the different individuals involved in the process.
Yeah, so UX design is in all of our lives all the time. Most of the time we don't think about it, but it's such a critical role.
Absolutely. And I would say if you start noticing it, it's because there is a lack of it,
Yeah.
and something somewhere went wrong, and there's probably something missing over there, that the team needs to work on.
Okay, good. Thank you for that. And you are getting ready to take us to your next phase, from user design to your next phase. Go ahead and continue.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I entered the user experience design profession as a professional, and I also got a master's degree in that, and I was really excited. I was like, okay, I've done engineering, I know how to build stuff, I am now learned how to design. I'm pretty sure I'm going to combine the two and really make things that would be of benefit, that will benefit people.
Mm.
Um, and initially, I worked almost for like 6 years as a design professional, and I like really enjoyed. I learned quite a bit. I got a chance to see how decisions are made behind the scene, and how the process of what is going to be built and how it's going to be built, um, what that looks like. Um, I think what I also started realizing is, um, there are certain tensions that are present when building products or designing products. In kind of it, just because of the nature of how products are built or how businesses,
Mhm.
how the underlying motivations are. Um, And so that really made me question, whether the original values with which I came in, which was to make something that would benefit the people who are using it, was I really able to do that?
Yeah.
And also, would I sort of remember sitting there and wondering, like, I'm not sure I'm comfortable building this particular thing that I'm building, because it's sort of compromising the values that I had about what I felt comfortable working on. And that kind of sort of led me to, um, academia and research, where I felt like I could continue to work in the space that I felt like that I care deeply about. Um, um, but I had much more freedom to find projects
Yeah.
and work on, I would say, other people whose values aligned with mine, and we were working towards, like similar objectives.
So in UX design, or in the company that you were working for, or you found that your values were not aligned with the products that you were being asked to build. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah. So, I think that was one of the first times where, um, every if you go to if you're a designer, one of the things you think about is, or at least for me, it was a huge part of my value system, was like whatever I would build, it should not harm the individual. And I think of harm in terms of like financially, psychologically, emotionally, and all of this, and sort of also like behaviors and habit. Now, harm is a really strong term, but I think it's also about, let's be more mindful of what we are putting out there,
Mhm.
um,
Yeah.
because we
Mishu,
have we have the power to do that.
yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, so like, because we're the individuals who have some power to control that while something is being made, um, and um, the difficulty in that lies, though, is not it's not sometimes as easy as like, okay, deciding like, all right, um, this does not align, or this is not right. Sometimes, a lot of people are making those decisions. So, um, I wouldn't say it was at a specific company or something. It was just, I just realized that, um, I wanted to be way more intentional about, um, what was it that I was putting out there. Um, and I wanted to feel really good about putting a product or designing a product, about how it made people feel, and how it was affecting their livelihood.
So, Mishu, you made a life choice to leave the role you were in with UX design because it was bumping up against your integrity and your values, as I heard it. Not all UX design, but the products you were working on,
Right.
to pivot to an area, academia, where you would have more freedom and more choice over aligning your values with what you were doing.
That's correct. Yes.
That speaks about who you are as a person. And I think leads to our next question, which is, Mishu, I really want to hear more uh, about your uh, your research, what you've done to date, whatever that is, and what you're doing to explore mental health and technology. I mean, what can you give us a little bit of a feel of what you think that, if you were to go way out there, what that might look like for you or for us?
Yeah. So, let me sort of briefly talk about. Um, so really, I my approach to researching in mental health has been, thinking about, how can we design to support individuals And design what? Like design, whether that's designing technologies, whether that's designing programs, whether that's designing systems. How do we design infrastructures, support systems, to help individuals with all aspects of their well-being. And really, the key notion over here is like I like to use the term holistic, but other people call it like designing for the whole person. And so really, it focuses on the idea that at any point of time, an individual has so much going on with their life, and they've got all competing priorities, and they're trying to work on different things. And my specific angle or approach to this has been is the current way that we have been designing technologies, they are optimizing to focus on any one aspect, right? So if you're, you might have certain trackers or devices which really help you think about your physical fitness, right? But they might be less focused or designed to support you about for like your mental health, or like managing stress. Or you might have technology that's focused on just your mental health, but isn't taking into account that you've got a really difficult job which requires you to stay on your foot, and what are the other factors that play into that. So that's something that I've been researching a bit on, like understanding how we can design technologies and system to help individuals with all of the different things that are going on with their life.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Fascinating, Meeshu. So to kind of go back to the beginning and then bring it to the end here, is that you said that you, from a very early age, you wanted to be able to create in a way that had an impact. And you are a PhD student at the University of California-Irvine. And it sounds like you're well on your way to continuing your education and receiving your PhD. What do you hope you will do with what you're being exposed to in the research that you're doing? What's your hope to put out into the world?
Yeah. So really, my big hope over here is that we put systems or technologies back in the hands of people. We put the kind of technology that would be that would benefit them, their mental health specifically, and empower them, as well as give them the agency that they need to sort of work towards their mental health and well-being. More specifically, though, like something that I deeply care about is making sure that people have, as much as possible, more and more people have access to those kinds of support systems. So going back to, we talked about aligning with my values. One of the things that I'm quite aware of is it's typically only a certain segment of population who's got access to mental health support systems and to certain types of technologies. And sort of, if we want to kind of increase who else can access it, then we need to design to keep that in mind, to keep those individuals in mind. Um, and that's kind of how I use this time and the space that I have available to prioritize the needs of those individuals or communities.
Yes, very nice. And so, Meeshu, it excites me that you have really been the first academic perspective that Women Making News has had as a guest on the broadcast, and I just so appreciate you for that, and broadening our broadcast in that way. If there were one message that you want our audience, recognizing that they are business and that they're multidisciplinary, what message do you want our audience to take from their time with you today?
I would say, as an individual who has sort of like navigated between like business and academia, I personally don't see that boundary being really strict, right? Um, and so I would say that we need more multidisciplinary and like cross collaboration um, across these different sectors or these different styles of working, to sort of really put out great products, or like build things that would make a difference. So um, I think we could really use more collaboration, just like across those two, build bridges across those two worlds.
Very nice. Thank you. I look forward to seeing that continue to happen on all fronts. And Meeshu, thank you for being with Women Making News today. It's just been interesting to hear you share your creative process and your academic process and how those things have come together. I appreciate you and look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.
Absolutely, Demi. Thank you so much. And just wanted to say thank you for inviting me. I really appreciate this.
Absolutely. I hope you'll come back again.
All right. Take care.
Okay, so thank you everyone for being with us today. And I want to take some time to share with everyone that this is the 1-year anniversary. June of 2021 was our first broadcast for Women Making News. And in that 12-month period of time, Women Making News aired 10 broadcasts. So we gave the microphone to 10 women like Meeshu, and we said, what do you want to share? This is for you. Tell your story. Tell us what you're interested in. Tell us what you want us to know. So we aired 10 broadcasts, and we awarded 8 scholarships for career coaching, for career transitions, for leadership coaching. And those 8 scholarships were only made available through the generosity of our sponsors, and just a heartfelt appreciation to all of our sponsors throughout this first year. Thank you all for being with us. Join us again in July. If you'd like to learn more about sponsorship, if you'd like to learn more about scholarships and Women Making News in general, go to our website at womenmakingnews.org, register, receive our newsletter on a monthly basis that gives you all the news that's going on, shares our latest broadcast, and shares our upcoming broadcast. Women Making News is on the move. Thank you.